Welcome everyone to episode 4 of Street Scene Power Hour. I'm Greg Roten, I'm the producer. Larry Ward is our host. Rick Guerrero is our other host. And we got some special guests with us today. Joe Secka, he's a photographer for a lot of stuff around here. Guy Shively. There's no introduction needed for Guy Shively because he is the ultimate artist.
The ultimate.
And then Billy Gibson. Billy has made something and some incredible stuff here for us. So we'll get started. I'm going to throw it your way, Rick. And
Billy, where's your guitar?
Oh, in the next room.
Billy Gibson. Yeah.
The ZZ Top. Where's your beard too? You ever get that, Bill? People always ask you about that.
Yeah, and actually his is Gibbons, not Gibson, but
it's Gibbons.
But I get it all the time. I do get that question a lot. And
I thought it was Gibson.
I do actually play guitar and sing out. I do gigs.
Oh, yeah. Well, you should. Where is it then? You should sing us a song.
Yeah,
you probably could.
Hold on, I'll pull out my ukulele here.
Can you do your version of Long Lonesome Highway, Bill?
Yeah, we do that.
There you go. So you're not fooling around with an amateur here, guys. I mean, this guy's been on the Two Wheel Power Hour for many, many, many times, and he's a good friend. So whenever you're ready to go to Billy, I got a little.
Sure, Billy. What's your background, Billy? What's going on there?
Well, I started out doing metal work when I was a kid. My dad was a fabricator, so got into it and eventually got into doing custom cars and motorcycles. I worked for the National Park Service for 34 years. And there we could do anything from restoring a bronze statue one day to fixing a toilet partition the next. I mean, if it was metal, we were doing it. And cool. So then I did a side business, like I say, with the custom cars and motorcycles. And in 2015, I told everybody, okay, I've built everybody else's dream car. It's time to build mine. And so I just shut the business down and spent the next year building my car.
Is it all hand built? You do it all by
I did.
Stamp that?
The body is a fiberglass body that was casted by a fellow up in New York. Bat Rods was the name of the company. They build a Batmobile fiberglass body that you can put on you can put it on any car, really. It works really well on a 1978 Lincoln Town car. Mm-hmm. And, but it's, you don't really call it a kit car. I mean, it's the general shape, but the doors aren't cut out of it or anything like that.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of fabrication, to make everything work. And then I'm a gadget guy, so I just love to make gadgets that work. So there's the picture of the body for. Yep. We get it on the real.
What style body is that?
Well, that's the 1966 Batmobile, like Adam West would have driven.
Okay. Oh, I see it now. Okay.
I'm gonna flip through some of these pictures that we have up there. We'll explain it a little bit again for the podcast viewers, and again you can watch this on the Armstrong Neighborhood channel and see the video part of it because the pictures are incredible. We have a lot more coming from Joe Secka. He sent me an unreal amount of pictures, so we'll flip through some.
Well, if I could jump in real quick and just talk to the fans for a minute. I met Bill years ago when I was hosting these. I'd do the motorcycle show, and then I'd open our auditorium, and we'd have pizza and pop and coffee and a first run film. And Billy is the president of Then Came Bronson fan club. Then Came Bronson was a hit TV series, 69 and 70, starred Michael Parks as Jim Bronson, wrote I think it was a 70, and Bill will correct me on all this stuff, but it was a 1970s Sportster, like an XLH, and he each week went around and looked for America and things like that. And these guys build exact replicas. There's a group of them. I don't know the total number, but each one of these guys probably invested close to $25,000 to make a replica bike. I mean, exactly like it. So over the years, we've become good friends, and I've had them on different things. And a couple of years ago, I got permission by the AMA when we were down at Vintage Days. They did a whole setup and displayed the bikes and memorabilia. And we got a chance to have Billy take his bike. And if you've ever seen an old Ironhead that is actually pristine and how good it sounds, and we did about six or seven laps on the Mid-Ohio road course. And I was the driver, and we had a videographer in the back, and we did a whole thing on it and that. And so as we began this podcast series and we were looking at interesting people to bring on board, I thought of not only Billy Gibson, the then Kane Bronson president of the fan club, but also the guy that built the Batmobile car. And I'm like super infatuated with it. He always seems to have a good-looking Batgirl around in the Batgirl costume, so that's kind of neat. And then I found out he's building a Batcycle. So, Rick, I'll let you take it back over if you want. And
that's all right. Good.
Bill, it's just absolutely fantastic. So, take us through the whole build process. We started out with what, a 76 or 78 Lincoln town car.
Yeah, the 78 to 79 town cars will work, yeah, I mean, basically you cut the body off of it. There's strategic parts you have to leave. And I made some new floor pans and made a new fuel tank. When you take the dashboard out, of course, that loses part of your charging system. So you got to figure out how to rewire that and make that all work. But then, you put the body down on there, and it's mounted on the original rubber mounts. Anyway,
Wow.
a lot of work. And then, like I say, I just like to make the gadgets work. So my car has working rocket launchers, and it has working flame out the back. The bat phone plugs into my cell phone, so I can actually talk on the bat phone. I just went nuts with the gadgets.
Sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
How long was the build process, start to finish, on this?
I did it in about a year. I mean, it took me a while to gather up parts, probably about 6 months to gather parts and get the cars and get the body ordered and then think about what I was going to do. But when I actually started, when I made the first cut to get the body off of the town car to the day I took it to its first show was exactly a year.
That is a phenomenal build. I mean, did you have what drawings or what did you get from the TV series that helped you with this car?
You just have to do a lot of research. You really didn't get a whole lot of help other than I was fortunate enough when I went up to New York and picked up the body. The guy had a car in progress. And so I was able to crawl around underneath of it and look at it and see what he did. I did a lot of things different because, I'm a fabricator and kind of do things my way. And I had more metalworking tools than he had,
That's pretty cool.
Right. So he was doing a lot of, plywood and fiberglass where I was making metal pieces.
What was the biggest challenge that you had on as you went through the build process on this car?
I think in the gadgets was making the rocket launchers work. Other than that, it was, for me anyway, it was straightforward fabrication. I mean, I fabricated my own fuel tank and getting the body to set correctly on the chassis so that it had the right stance. Trying to, because you're kind of guessing how much the springs are going to settle and that kind of thing,
Where'd you find the 78 Lincoln at?
Out of Minnesota. I had been looking for months trying to find,
a good one.
Trying to find a low mileage one that was banged up in all four corners. I didn't want to cut up a good car. And I was hoping to pay under $3,000 for one. It turned out I paid $6,000 for this one, and it was absolutely perfect. It was a little old church lady's car that just, the velour seats were still not worn. There was no rust on it anywhere. 70,000 mile car. you know. And it was funny. I drove it to the local rod runs around here, and people started teasing me. They said, "Oh yeah, there comes old Bill from the old folks home driving his Lincoln." And then they started, since they know me, they started guessing what I was going to do with it. And when they kind of figured out that I might cut it up, they were like, "Oh no, don't cut that up. That's way too nice," you know.
Yeah.
Oh no, it's getting cut.
Yeah. I don't think those are very desirable anyway, right? The old Lincolns, not yet anyway.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What do you think you have tied up in that, if you want to ballpark?
I think my best get somewhere between 50 and 55,000.
Whoa!
Actual.
Wow.
But it was appraised for 175,000 when I was done.
I know this thing is phenomenal. You know, I'm going to get down there on because I'm going to be jetting down around your area for a couple rallies this year, and I'm going to make sure I swing by because I just absolutely have to sit in it, take a picture, because my 8-year-old grandson is like a huge Batman fan, and when he sees that, he's going to like flip out.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Well, hey, quality costs. Let's face it. What do you do? Start to get into these things. You know, they're well. You know how, Rick. You know how much cars cost. You can't get a, you can't get a '69 GTO for under 65, 70 grand. You know.
Yeah, you got that right. So Bill, what do you do with the frame and everything once you cut it? You know, get it separated from the body. Is it used stock like that, or do you?
Yeah, actually, I did. I just left it stock because it's the 400, Lincoln motor with a 2-barrel on it, and I didn't even detail under the hood because when I take it to shows, I don't raise the hood. You know, it's more about the image. You know, all it has to do is cruise and look good. You know, and, I'm not trying to win any shows, but always. If I do take it to a car show, it ends up getting People's Choice or Kids' Choice or whatever, President's Choice or something like that. It doesn't really win anything for like I say, I don't raise the hood to get judged on that kind of work.
Yeah. Phenomenal build. And now you're embarking on a second big time build, which is a littler known thing, which is the Bat Cycle. And everybody knows what the Batmobile is, but it's sort of like nobody knows what Robin does after hours. It's kind of like that. So tell us a little bit about the idea of the Bat Cycle and how you're going to bring it to fruition.
Well, when I was with you up at Mid-Ohio last year, I found the motorcycle that was the exact type of motorcycle that was used for the Bat Cycle. It's a Yamaha YDS 250, and so I ended up buying it and then getting the fiberglass parts to build Robin's go-kart, which sits in the sidecar of the motorcycle, and also the fiberglass parts to build the fairing and all that stuff to make it look like the Bat Cycle.
I was just looking at this. This one picture we have up, I'll explain it. It's the looks like the framework, and it's electric.
Yes,
it's all electric. It's not gas powered.
Right. The original go-kart that was Robin's go-kart was gas powered and actually had a 2-speed transmission on it. But I decided to go electric just because I could get everything under the fiberglass easier and cleaner, and wouldn't have to worry about the little 2-cycle engine. So I did change that up. There's a picture up now of the fiberglass stuff that will go on the bike.
We have a picture up for you guys listening to the podcast. He has the Yamaha, the base motorcycle, and he's got the fiberglass pieces laying around it. So the motorcycle, the bike itself looks clean.
It's a beautiful bike. Yeah, I didn't tell the guy what I was going to do with it when I bought it because he figured he might not sell it to me.
Is that a 67?
The one I have is a 67. Yeah.
Yeah.
They use 1966s in the show, so mine is electric start, where the ones on the show were kickstart only.
Okay. Now, I bet Guy would like to get his hands on and do some striping on that, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that Japanese stuff's coming on.
Yeah. Well, we got Guy here also, Guy Shively. He's very well known in the Mahoning Valley area for top-notch paint work on striping. And how long have you been doing this, Guy?
About 44 years.
44 years. And, I always remember going to do some segments for Street Scene, and you painted stuff for the Riddler Award.
Yeah, I've had a couple cars I've striped that made it into the grade 8, but my claim to fame one year is I striped a Rolls-Royce Silver Ghost that won an award at Pebble Beach.
Wow.
Same year, I lettered a Demolition Derby car that won Best Appearing Car at the Canfield Fair Demolition Derby. So
complete
both ends of the
opposites. Huh?
spectrum.
Yeah, you got that right.
Wow, that
Demo
Pebble
car
Beach
was
thing is a big deal.
Pittsburgh Steelers, and I'm a Browns fan. So
I'll see you later. Get rid of this guy.
So basically, you can do work for anything top notch done, like goes to Pebble Beach, and then you can have somebody bring you $100 car and just stripe it up for them. So
yeah, he was my mechanic. It was a
Oh.
trade deal.
Oh.
So
Guy, where did you get your start at?
The first time I saw a sign painter was at the Trumbull
Mhm.
County Fair. I was in 4-H. I owe my career to a herd of sheep. I was in a sheep club. About middle school, I'm walking around and there was a guy lettering picnic tables. When they first moved the Trumbull County Fair to Bezetta,
Mhm.
you could buy an ad on a picnic table. He'd letter it on there and they'd stick them around the fairgrounds. Well, I'd never seen anybody do that before. Boy, the colors look good, the brushes, all that. So then, you got to try it. Then you see how bad you are. And it just progressed from there. I have a pre-computer commercial art degree from YSU, but everything I do to make money, I kind of figured out on my own. The pinstriping, I had the wrong brushes and ran into a guy at a van inn, and he was striping the back of a van. And I asked him about it. He goes, "Oh, no, you need this brush." So I got the right brush and off I went.
now it takes a pretty steady hand, and
Right.
if anybody's ever tried to paint anything, you have to have an extremely steady hand to get that straight, and I couldn't do it to save my life.
That's for sure.
Any famous cars any nationally known cars that you've worked on?
Yeah, I striped one of the Chitty Chitty Bang Bangs that they restored up in Chardon.
Wow.
Yeah, I had about 3 days in that thing. Those were built in the mid 60s by a race car company in England. Made 5 of them for that movie. 2 had motors, 2 were hollow for the helicopter, and 1 was a boat. The one they had in Chardon was one with a motor in it. Had a V4 Ford motor. That's a bizarre looking thing.
V4.
Yeah, it's in English.
Yeah.
It looks like it has wood spoke wheels, but they're all machined out of aluminum. The spare tire on the side was cast out of fiberglass. He had probably close to $1 million in this car restoring it.
Wow.
But they made all the wings work and all that. Oh yeah, that was interesting. Went back to Florida.
Speaking of Florida, we kind of jealous. We kind of let Joe Secka in here, and he's been enjoying himself in the warm weather. So we probably should kick him out of this. But
yeah, I think so.
But we'll let you in anyway, Joe. Joe is a photographer, and his work is incredible. He's on he's been down in Florida taking pictures. I've seen your stuff on Facebook. You take photographs at the car shows, bike shows, and what else do you do, Joe?
That's about it with the photography anymore. I'm getting older. When I started out, that car nut at 13, reading Carcraft and Rod and Custom and Hot Rod and waiting for body work. Worked in a body shop for 6 years, and before I went to GM, which I was there for 40 years.
Okay.
And I had my own shop at home and did some primarily customizing and hot rods. A lot of antique restorations kept me busy, and then everything kind of faded as I had 2 daughters and get more involved with them. I picked up a camera in the late 90s, and that was kind of where that all started. I got hooked up with National Speed Sport News, and I've been to a whole multitude of NASCAR tracks, NHRA tracks, a whole lot of dirt racing, some of everything.
Are you the main photographer for Cruising Times right now?
I guess so.
Okay.
Locally anyway. We have a guy over in New Jersey that does some East Coast stuff, and then every once in a while some other stuff comes into the magazine.
Okay.
But I do most of the local coverage.
Now, it's photography is one thing that you have to know how to do it, because for the street scene show I do videography, and that's a totally different ball game. I can shoot video, but I can't shoot a picture to save my life. So, especially ones like we're showing some. He's got some from dirt track racing that we're showing now. And if you watch it on the Armstrong neighborhood channel, you can see it. But just the crispness and the clearness of these, I don't know. How has that changed over the years? You've been doing this a long time, and you had film, and then now it's all digital.
Mud racing?
Digital, well, whenever I started out, and everything was film, and I was kind of at the end of that, and I've had a few classes at Youngstown State on black and white darkroom processing, so I did that. Then when color film came in to be the hot thing, everybody just flocked to the 1-hour photo deals. So darkrooms became a thing of the past because they were too expensive due to temperature and humidity controls.
Okay.
So when it went digital, it was almost as though I got my darkroom back. But I haven't been around for years. I didn't really start doing this till I was 50. I'm 78 now and still chasing this stuff around.
Good.
Thank God, boy. I thought I was the oldest guy here, and now I realize I'm not. Thank you.
But you know what? As far as a lot of the work that's gone into this, Billy, I mean, you've been doing a lot of the custom work for quite a while, and a lot has changed during that too. Why don't you go into the little bit of what's changed with you as far as how techniques and time has changed the hobby?
Well, fabrication actually has pretty much stayed the same. I was fortunate because, as I said, my dad was a fabricator. We had a really good shop at the house in the backyard. We had an old Hobart TIG welder. And what they've done now to just sell the machines, they have changed some, but I can do anything with one of those old TIG machines that you can do with the new, what they now call GTAW, which gas tungsten arc welding. Okay. So they changed the names. I mean, it was first HeliArc because it was helium and an arc. Okay. And in an inert atmosphere. Then they started calling it TIG, tungsten and inert gas. Then they started calling it gas tungsten arc welding. And then when they got into the digital stuff and the where you can have you can actually change the electronic wave from a sine wave to a square wave. You can change your welder so that it has more positive polarity and less negative, or the other way around. If you want more cleaning action in your weld, if you're doing aluminum, or if you want more penetration. So you can do a lot more with the machines, but technique wise, it's still pretty much the same. You're still out there hands-on, and got to know how to cut, got to know how your materials, and got to know what you're going to weld, and just a little more set in the machine. I don't know You were talking about the digital cameras. I would think you've got so many more settings. When I got my first digital welding machine, I had to just stop for 2 weeks and do nothing but practice with that machine and just try different settings, because I had never had a machine that you could turn the knob on and it actually said 124 volts, or 124 amps, right? I really, I had an old machine that you turned it to a certain range and a certain percentage of that range. You really didn't know what your actual amperage was. So to use the digital machine, it took me some practice.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah.
But now going into that same thought, Guy, paint wise, there's got to be some changes. You've done this a long time. There's got to be some changes in the paint quality, the paints that you use, or what's come along this way, during the years.
Well, they took the lead out of it. That made it a little more difficult to use. But other than that, they've come up with urethanes that you can clear coat. They didn't have years ago. I mostly use oil-based enamel on stuff, and it's, other than they take the lead out, it's still pretty much the same. And then I remember in the 80s when vinyl came along, and I thought, I'm not getting into that. I can hand letter. Boy, it took a lot of work away from me. Now people can't find anybody can hand letter anything, so it came back.
Yeah.
These younger guys, you give them a choice of getting out a can of paint and a brush or pushing buttons, you know what they'll pick.
The buttons.
So,
I
stay busy.
Yeah.
I'm turning into a dinosaur. The guys I was watching when I started were World War II vets. Well, you know where they're all at now. So
it's a lost art almost anymore. But you get somebody that can do it right, and Guy's gonna be at our car show on July 25th. The Street Scene Car and Custom Bike Show. So don't forget that.
I have a question for Guy. I've always wondered how do you decide, since it's all freelance kind of thing, how do you decide, Guy, like, okay, a guy brings you a helmet and he says, this is what I want done. What goes through your mind on how to tell him what's a fair price?
fair price, did you say?
Yes, fair, FAIR, fair price. Like what would be fair for your time and your effort, your skills to do some design on a helmet? Or how do you determine, what to charge for things?
Well, I don't know. It depends on the amount of colors and stuff like that and what work's involved. I don't really charge by the hour. So it's kind of I don't know, you're pulling it out of your butt half the time, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you get into things like gold leaf and stuff like that, it goes up.
Yeah.
My main concern is doing stuff for somebody that'll come back with something else. So I'm not really trying to get rich on each project. I just want to have something to do every day. So if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm fortunate there's a lot of people that got a lot of stuff and a lot of money that keep me employed. So
you just don't do it in your shop, right? You'll go to other places like museums and collections and all that stuff.
A lot of antique cars, you go to the car.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty interesting too. You're going to do one car and the guy's got 7 more of them sitting there, so I was at a guy's house one time in Peninsula. He had the original Tucker. This is back in 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was in the movie for about 3 seconds, he said. At the end of the movie, when all the Tuckers were parked around the courthouse there. You guys have seen that movie.
Oh yeah.
He was in it, but boy, he was an interesting guy. I was at his house striping an L29 Cord, which is also a nice car, but
beautiful car. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So boy, I've seen the stuff on field trips. Let me tell you. But it's amazing what's out there that you'll never see. These guys, all these garages aren't open for public viewing, but if you know the guy, there's a guy probably 4 minutes from my building that has probably $4 or $5 million worth of Packards.
Wow.
You ain't getting in there unless.
Yeah, we tried to get into a couple of these places, and they said, no, we don't have nothing to do with it. Yeah.
Norm Anderson used to have a lot of stuff. you know,
But it's
that kind of thing.
it's amazing what's out there.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be surprised what people have. It's always, there's got to be something tucked in that garage, and
Oh.
wherever the garage may be, it's you always hear the stories of, oh, it's kind of drying up, and there's stuff all over the place that you don't know about.
Well, there's Harleys and Corvettes everywhere, midlife crisis vehicles
Yeah.
that a lot of widows sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt.
Oh, how do you feel about that, Larry?
About the widows or about the Corvette?
No, about the Corvettes and
Well, every day it seems like you see somebody that found a barn find, a 469 427 4-speed tri-power convertible Corvette. You read about those things, but I've only seen one of them in person. But if you see the American Pickers, you see Gas Monkey, those guys. Those are self-perpetuating because people want to be on the show, so they always sending them stuff and that. But I think the picks are probably getting fewer and farther in between. But Guy, if you was to think of one thing that just knocked your socks off when you went out to some guy's place, what would it have been?
Usually antique cars are pretty interesting. First $1 million car I ever did was a 34 Packard Dietrich up in Twinsburg at a restoration shop. I found out the guy paid $750,000 for this car. Then they did a frame off restoration. When I show up, I'm going, geez, what's this worth? He goes, $1.25 million. And that car sold a couple times since. The last time I think it sold for $3.5 million.
Wow.
It was
Did it
one
still
of
have you-
five. It'd been to the 1935 Paris Auto Show back, and had a history. So,
Did your pinstriping hold up? Is it still on there?
yeah, and I did a 1911 Mercedes that's in this Mercedes Museum in Stuttgart, Germany. It had a story too. It was owned by a guy in Pike. He had it restored over in Kent. And then he sold it to that attorney O'Quinn. I don't know if you ever heard the story about him. He represented a bunch of people on that breast implant thing and made a bunch of money. And they said he single-handedly almost put Owens Corning out of business. But then he did a class action lawsuit for tobacco in Texas. And I guess he made a couple billion.
Oh,
He
yeah.
started buying cars.
couple
He-
billion.
He
The
paid
B.
over $1 million for this Mercedes.
Did you imagine having that much money? So
Yeah,
No.
but he was going to catch a plane flight, got in a car crash and got killed.
Oh, yikes.
And he was up to 1,200 cars. Well, you don't put all that stuff on the market or it'll kill the market. So that's how some of this stuff has been dispersed. But it, just interesting.
Crazy.
Joe, you've been around, you're in Florida now, and what are some of the most rare and interesting cars that you come across when you're taking photos?
Probably the most in one point. A few years ago, they had a concours up at Stan Hewitt Hall in Akron. And that was probably the experience where I saw more in one location than any place else.
Wow, it's anything that popped out of your dream car, so to speak, or dream motorcycles that you actually got a snapshot of?
From myself, you mean?
Yeah, for yourself.
I'm open to almost anything. Right now I'm without my 2009 HHR is kind of the coolest thing that I've got.
There you go.
And I've got two cars in the garage, basket cases. They've both been sitting in the garage since the 60s.
Oh,
What are they? What are they?
28 Pontiac Landau Sedan.
28.
Huh?
28.
It's got a Pontiac 400 and turbo 400 in it, but that's about where it's at. It needs all the body work and just everything completed. And I also have a 29 Nash Coupe.
Oh, get it.
But the Nash Coupe has been in my garage since probably the mid 60s, early 60s, early
Wow.
60s. And
So
the
that's gonna-
Pontiac I've had since late 60s, maybe 68, 69.
See, there's
But
still a lot
I'm
of
looking
finds
for
out
something
there.
that I can just go cruising in. I don't think I'll ever. Yeah. Oh, yes, absolutely. I mean, I going with cruising times, and I go out and do a feature shoot sometimes, and you hear the story of how somebody located a car, and it's, yep, barn finds are still there.
They're still there. Believe me, you just got to find them. That's all.
Yep.
One day, those two cars are going to be barn finds, the ones you have in your garage.
Absolutely, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Hey, Joe, Larry Ward here. How has the renaissance of digital made your job or your business of taking photos easier?
Well, I don't think it's made it easier. I challenge myself. I'm probably my own worst critic. And I look at my work and always want to know what could be done to make it better. Now, the digital tools that we have makes more precision capable. So you have the bar is higher, in other words. And so it isn't any easier. From a negative aspect, the digital revolution kind of destroyed photography because everyone has a camera in their pocket.
Yeah.
And take a picture with a cell phone, and a mediocre picture looks good on a 2-inch screen. So really, a lot of people that used to want to get a nice 16 by 30 or something to hang on the wall, now all they carry around their photo album is on the cell phone. And so it's changed that. I just deal with it, not making any money off of it. I do it. Somebody asks me why I do it, and I don't hunt, bowl, golf, or fish. If I have a camera in my hand and there's cars around, that's my seventh heaven. So
You're in heaven.
that's
Hey.
kind of how I do it.
Is it any cheaper now than it was before, like with the digital camera, than when you had the film and all that, the processing?
Well, it can be. I mean, it just depends on the price of the equipment. Overall, I probably got $70,000 in equipment.
Wow.
I don't know if
Not
I've
cheap.
ever had a year that I haven't spent $1,000 or $2,000 on gear, and not necessarily that I really needed it because something was worn out, but technology changes.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm a little bit of a gear addict. It's not
Yes.
necessary to have.
Yes.
Always
You
looking
can,
for an upgrade
do
there.
excellent. Yeah, you can do excellent work with an $800 camera. You can do. I see some fantastic stuff being done with cell phones.
Yeah,
or you can go all the way to a $5,000 body with a $2,000 lens on the end of it.
let me put it to you this way, Rick.
Wow.
You were in the video business, when we worked at the TV station, but the video equipment has followed along the same line. The first camera I got here at Armstrong cost $12,000. The last camera I bought that just blows the video quality away was $1,500.
Plus a lot smaller.
And it's this big, the other cameras, the sizes and the quality. But the thing it's funny you mentioned that, Joe. What aggravates me the most is anybody can take their cell phone, put a YouTube video up, and they're making a ton of money on that stuff. And it's like, there is nothing left. It's killed good video, good photography. That's killed the business for sure.
Remember, Joe, July 26th.
I'm my own. I drive myself, I guess, more than business.
Yeah.
I'll be there, barring any radical change in my schedule. I'm planning on being there.
Austin Town Park. That's where the street scene car and bike show is going to be.
Yep.
So
Just a reminder, Larry Ward is with us, our host. Rick Guerrero, our host. I'm Greg Roten. We have special guests here on the Street Scene Power Hour. Joe Secka, he's a photographer and loves doing his job, right? And then we've got Guy Shively, who does anything that's got a paintbrush in his hand and more. And then we've got Billy Gibson with us, and he is a fabricator, and he's made the Bat car, and he's working on the
That bike.
Michael, yeah.
So thanks for, if you're tuning into or listening to us on the podcast, thank you. If you're watching this on the Armstrong Neighborhood channel, you get to enjoy the photos we've been sharing of Joe's and Billy's work. So, I got a quick question, Bill. Have you used, when you're fabricating stuff, have you used any adhesives for body panels at all?
I did when it was doing the fiberglass stuff. They have the two-part epoxies that you have the special gun for, and
Okay.
put some parts together. I actually end up using regular fiberglass resin most of the time instead of using those things. They've come a long way, but I find the just using the old-fashioned fiberglass resin for me works better. I guess I just haven't learned whatever the processes are for cleaning and prepping, and the three of us here are all craftsmen, in our own trades apparently, and passionate about what we do. But sometimes trying to, I don't know, sometimes for us the old ways are better. I'm thinking, at least for me, you're talking about Sam with his paintbrush there or whatever, instead of vinyl. Same with me. I'm kind of stuck in the old ways.
It seems like, people are like, why don't you use, if you're putting body panels together, even steel body panels, why are you using adhesives instead of welding? I just can't get that in my head.
Well, some of the newer metals, the HSLA, high strength, low alloy metals, you actually can't weld them. They become so brittle that you just can't weld them, and you can't get the dents out of them. Once there's a crease in it, that crease is there forever. And so in that case, you have to buy the new panel and glue it on. That's all you can do. But now I'm not a finished body guy. My finished paint work was done at a local body shop.
Okay.
I did the fabrication, I put everything together, I made the doors open and close, and got the general shape right, and I did all the chassis work. But the finished paint work somebody else has got to do. And probably know some people that these guys here know. Chuck Buckler did a lot of my pinstriping on some of my I have a little coin-op Batmobile that you showed in one of the pictures a little earlier, and Chuck did all that, and he does a lot of the NHRA stuff. And then I have another guy, Roger Nelson. You were talking about pinstriping a helmet. I've got one hanging up here that's just out of sight of the screen. And, so we're all in this together here,
Mm-hmm.
and we're all old school, it seems like. Yeah.
Hey, Bill,
Go ahead,
Bill,
Doug.
I have a question about the Batmobile. The bubbles, the glass, are those plexiglass or glass? And did you have them hand formed, or did they come with the car, or what?
They're plexiglass, and the reason that they're plexiglass is because that's easier to polish out a scratch. If you made them out of Lexan, it's real tough to polish Lexan out.
Right.
And they did come with the car. Yeah, the guy up there at Bat Rods formed it, and you would not believe how he did it. You would think they were free blown, but he actually has a mold, and he lays the sheet of plexiglass out over top of the mold and stands back with a roofer's torch and heats them up, and then clamps it into the molds. Yeah.
Sure. Well, you know what? Well, we all know what vacuum molding is and that, but I wondered how they made them. Now,
I'm going to make my own for the Bat Cycle. I have the molds, so I'm gonna do the same process when I make the one for the Bat Cycle.
We have a guy that does a lot of the GP bikes, the old 60s and early 70s GP bikes, and those fairings are one-offs and that. And the guy's name is Leif Garrickson, and he's down there in Florida. And we've been down there, and actually both Roy and I had custom windshields made where he actually makes them in the plant, and it's all hand formed, and it's a pretty cool guy. But And I just wondered, neat stuff.
Hey, Billy, let me ask you something. Your Batmobile is considered a kit car. It's a cologne. It's a reproduction. How does this hold up in the market? So if you were go to sell it, and what would the original one be worth compared to yours?
Well, okay, long story here. Of course, the original one, the #1 Batmobile, which was made from a show car that Ford put out, and they designed it in '54. It was built 55, 56. It was called the Futura, and so that car, that is really the only real Batmobile. Then George Barris took molds off of that car and made 3 other replicas and sent them out to do shows. The original Batmobile sold at Barrett Jackson for $4.2 million plus commissions, which brought it up to 4.6.
Yeah.
I'm not at liberty to tell you what it got resold for, but I do know the owner, and I've actually made a couple of parts to help restore the original Batmobile. But I'm not at liberty to tell you what he bought it for.
Sure, it's pretty cheap, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I can tell you the original owner lost a little money. The original
is it drivable?
Yes.
The original, is it?
He's working. His name is Dave Anderson. He's over in Virginia. We'll just say Fairfax, Virginia. And he is very private. I don't think the car will ever get back out of the garage, but he has restored it, or at least is very close to the end of a restoration to putting it back just like it would have been on day 1 of filming of the show.
When do you expect the bat cycle to be done?
I'm hoping by the end of this summer.
Okay.
But yeah, the clones, as far as value goes, they're actually coming down. Believe it or not, the market's getting saturated with them. Mine was appraised, like I said, 175,000. There's actually ones that I would say are even closer to looking like 100% correct in the interior and detailed under the hood, that some would go for more than mine, but some have actually sold for less. You're right in the anywhere from the $100,000 to $225,000 range, depending upon what's
you see that trend going up still?
No, I see it coming down.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say in the next couple years you'll see them in the low 80s, $80,000.
Time to sell then, right?
Well, if you wanted to, but I'm not planning on selling this one ever. I didn't build it for that.
Well, we're waiting for those then came Bronson bikes to start coming up.
Yeah. That's actually gotten popular. I know of at least 15 here in the U.S. replicas of that motorcycle right there, and there was one in Germany and one in the U.K. That I know of, and but again, I don't think anybody builds one of those to try to make money.
No.
Hey, Bill, you call yourself a fabricator, okay? What do you're just basically metal, or would you fabricate other stuff?
Yeah, mostly metal work.
Metal, okay.
I did, metal shaping, which is different from actual fabrication. Metal shaping is when you're changing the contour of the metal, your compound curves, okay? Fabrication is taking the saw and cutting it and putting it back together and welding it and, that kind of thing, where metal shaping is actually hammer forming, you're stretching or shrinking or changing the metals. You're changing the amount of surface area of the metal. So I do a lot of that too.
You have an English wheel?
I have an English wheel, power hammers, planishing hammers, and a lot of, do a lot of manual stuff as well.
How's your hearing?
Terrible.
All these banging.
You know what the real question is here is, who did you know to get your job in the national parks? That's the real question.
That was just dumb luck. That was really dumb luck. Yeah. I took the civil service entrance exam, and I'm sure I failed it because, you know, my English and, believe it or not, my math skills, just for the sake of math, are not that good. I can add and subtract fractions in my head, but when it comes to laying out an algebraic formula, forget it, you know. So anyway, I'm sure I failed it, but on my way out of the door, now we're talking, this is 1972, I guess, something like that. On the way out the door, they had this like magazine rack with trade cards, and it had a big sign over it, says, if you have a trade, fill out one of these cards. And I did. And about 6 months later, I got a call from the National Park Service that said, hey, we need a sheet metal mechanic. Can you fill the job? And I'm like, sure.
Wow.
Wow. Right place, right time.
Yeah.
Hey,
Mhm.
Guy, I got a question for you. What is the biggest vehicle you've had to stripe or do work on?
I lettered a couple monster trucks when
Okay.
that first started.
Oh, that's big.
Lone Ranger guy up in Vienna, and Goliath, he's up in Southington,
Okay.
and a lot of semis.
Yeah.
I just had a fire truck in there to repair the gold leaf, so I get my share of that. But
Okay. You know what? Real quick, I wanted to go through some of Joe's pictures from NASCAR. Why don't you tell us where, you know, some of the NASCAR stuff? How did you even get in to take some of these pictures?
Well, whenever I started taking photos, I was chasing NASCAR and ended up getting more involved with the Hooters Pro Cup series and the ARCA series. And through all of that, I was submitting photos to National Speed Sport News, who then says. So you basically have to have a credential to get any kind of access.
Okay.
And you have that.
Yes.
Yeah, because some of these, like this, the photo we're looking at is you're right on the track. You're right in the pit area there.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
he's got basically, if you're listening to the podcast, he's got the DuPont car, and he's right behind the pit crew with tires in their hands, ready to take the tires off the car. It's like, geez, he's right there.
Looks like Gordon.
Yeah,
Jeff Gordon's car.
it's
Yeah.
pretty close. It can get a little bit hairy sometimes. You have to pay attention. I mean, that's their, I guess, home base. So you got to watch you don't stick your feet or arms out someplace that it doesn't want to be for those guys. So
Do you have to wear any safety gear or anything?
no, well, not with NASCAR, and the regulations change. NASCAR pretty much long pants and open-toed shoes. You get into like IndyCar, some of the other ones, you can go actually over the wall during pit stops, but you have to have a fire suit and a helmet.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So it varies from series to series. And it's constantly changing. It's becoming more safety oriented than it was 20 years ago.
Sure.
Okay.
That's a good thing.
So again, we're talking with Joe Secka, Guy Shively, and Billy Gibson here on the Street Scene Power Hour. If you're tuning into the podcast,
This is our artist podcast, huh?
Yeah,
All
artists.
artists. Yep.
We've got fabricators,
Yeah.
we've got pinstripe and artists, and then we've got visual artists with Joe
Mhm.
Secka. So we've got
Yeah.
a little bit of everybody here. So we only got a few minutes left. Larry, questions for anybody here?
No, I look forward to seeing Billy out on the road. Hopefully, he'll have the bat cycle done, and we'll be able to see it, at least see the pictures of it at the various shows throughout the year. But I think the work that he's done, both in keeping the Then Came Bronson TV series alive, and for helping it skip a couple of generations to the young people now that did not have a chance to see it. Michael Parks has passed on about 2 years ago, both Billy and Greg Patnick and Tom Hansen and Bill Weeder and the whole crew do everything they can to keep this thing going. And I certainly appreciate it. They've helped me share the experience, and they're a great bunch of guys, and I call them my friends. So I want to thank Billy for taking the time out of his day to stop by.
Yeah. Thanks, Larry. Thanks everybody for inviting me.
Appreciate you having you here, Rick. We're going to wrap up the show here.
Hey, Billy, where are you from?
Originally Lynchburg, Virginia, but I live in
Oh.
Burtonsville, Maryland now.
Burton's, that's where you're at now. Burton's from, okay. You were very interesting. You're very interesting to talk to. I'd like to see your workshop sometime.
Come on down. Come on down.
Yeah, it looks like Bill's got, you said you had a whole collection of stuff all through the house.
Yeah.
Like you do behind you now.
Right.
Hey, Guy, if I wanted to get in touch with you and get some work done, how do I do it?
Oh, I
Huh?
have a website. It's Guy's Custom Pinstriping OH.com.
So it's
Yeah.
guys custom pinstriping OH.com. That's what, okay.
And I heard that he does Thunderbirds, but because it's a Thunderbird, it costs a little bit more.
Okay, yeah, everything's more than that Thunderbird, believe me. My point, you have deep pockets for that thing.
Joe, do you have a website people could check out of your pictures?
Easiest thing is probably the website's getting outdated. The best thing is probably just to get on to me through Facebook,
Okay.
Joe Secka.
All
Or
right.
look in Cruising Times magazine. My email address and phone numbers in there.
Cool. If you have any questions for Larry, any of us here, Armstrong Street Scene at gmail.com. Larry, you have another website you can ask questions on?
The number 2, so it's 2wheelpowerhour@gmail.com.
When are we gonna see you back on the air, Larry? Hear you again.
Either late April, first week of May. for sure.
Excellent. So if you're a Two-Wheel Power Hour fan, it's coming back. And
Coming
we're all happy about that because, that kind of branched off into the Street Scene Power Hour, which we're getting more people viewing this, and we want you to listen to this and view it on the Armstrong Neighborhood channel. So everybody, thank you for taking your time out of your day and sharing your stories with us and all your experiences, and we really appreciate it.
It was fun, guys. Thanks, Billy. Thanks, Guy. Thanks, Joe. And don't get sunburnt down there in Florida, Joe. Or,
Yeah.